Zoe, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I'm super excited about it.
Yes, me too. Thank you.
This is going to be good. So, for those that do not know of you, just a very quick insertion that we're not going to talk a lot about what I first was drawn to you around, which is topics of sexuality and intimacy and the word pussy and our pussies and all of that stuff. So we're going to go in a little different direction, and I'm actually excited about that.
Great.
Talk to us about being a badass.
Yeah. It's an exciting time to be a woman, right? It's the world is really like activated, and it's just an interesting political climate. And in the sort of polarization, I think that women, we're really finding our voice and finding our power. And with the Me Too campaign, and just seems like so much is rising to the surface to really be looked at. And I think, so given that context and that climate, I think many of us are really feeling the call to kind of step into our power and find our voices in our individual lives as well. And that's all wonderful. It's amazing. It's just sort of a great time, I'm finding, to be a woman. But when we look at the context of our lives and what we have set up for ourselves, it's not so easy to just sort of step into that. We have a lot of history of, sort of structuring our lives in a certain way, and even inhabiting our bodies and showing up in our relationships and our family constellations, and a certain way that maybe no longer fits the current paradigm. So there was a point at which, for me, in writing an article that The Cost of Being a Badass, I had reached a point where I was absolutely exhausted, like exhausted beyond belief. And it kind of went beyond the, like, I'm sleep deprived, I have too much to do, I'm not taking enough time to rest and to unplug and lean into my practices, like that all. There was that for sure,
Right.
but there was also this, like, what I sort of named like existential exhaustion. Like I lost the perspective of what I was doing all this for. And it was sort of like, what am I fighting for in the world and for women and in society and my communities? Like, what am I trying to activate here? And what am I doing? What is my role? What is my purpose here? I'm a mother, I'm an entrepreneur, I work with women, I have deep and wonderful relationships with friends, and I'm close with my family. Like, who am I serving and why?
Yeah.
So, and really one thing that became clear to me is that the cost of being a badass cannot be the badassery. Like, we cannot run ourselves down to the point where we can't even show up anymore. It's totally self-defeating. So, so I came up with these 8 rules of Badass Club.
Yep.
Right. And there's actually a 9th one in development, all about the allocation of resources, but it doesn't quite exist yet, because well, it is a big one for sure. And it's something, of course, all of these 8 rules are things that I've, had to navigate myself. And this one in particular, the allocation of resources, of course, it's the 9th one, because it's something that is like an ongoing challenge in my life. Right. Definitely something I don't have licked yet, but
right.
But the awareness is the first step. So, but yeah.
And so I have a favorite of,
yeah.
I actually have 2 favorites, so I'll be interested to know if it's one of your favorites or if one of the others. I think the first favorite that I have, and I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but it was around being very clear on your mission or your badassery, and then anything that doesn't align with that
Yes.
has to go.
That's right.
And I think that that's what I have worked my way through. And I think probably a lot of people who will be watching this. So you figured out what your purpose is, or what your reason for standing in your space.
Yes.
But then all of the swirling, all of the stuff. As a woman, we're often the pillars in our families, in our communities, in our everything.
Yeah.
And with that comes that need to say no to everything that doesn't align. So would you flesh that out a little bit?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, purpose is a tricky thing because I think it's very loaded, right? And people are sort of feeling like they're searching. I mean, it's my experience that the women that I work with are often like, I do work around purpose, and it's very intimidating, and it feels a little bit scary, I think, to try to really hone that, and it seems mysterious.
It also sometimes, I think, seems like a box.
Yes.
Finite, or a place to reach. Like once you've discovered your purpose, then what happens if it changes or shifts?
Yes. Right. That's exactly what I'm about to get to, which is just exactly what you're saying. Purpose can change. Purpose can, and I love to, with the women that I work with, I love to talk about, like, what is your purpose this week?
Yeah.
Like this week, what is it? What is the overall purpose? And, there's a lot of sort of deep diving and exercises and meditations and discussions and all kinds of exploration about what your sort of life purpose is, and what you're here for, and what you want to contribute to the world, and what you want to stand in. But there's also, what's your purpose today?
Yeah.
Like, I know what my purpose is today. My purpose is to be present in every moment, and to have done my mastermind when I got up this morning, and then squeezed in a shower, and then sit down and have a wonderful conversation with you, and then go to my son's school and, help to assist in the big art project, and then, go food shopping and provide food for my family. Like, my purpose today is to not get distracted, and to get through the day showing up fully present to each of my appointments. And, I know what my purpose is for the month. So it's something that is mutable and multidimensional.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about a life purpose, generally it's like, I can share with you my life purpose. My mission is to shift the way we hold sexuality, both individually and culturally, and to create a more loving and compassionate world through the cultivation of a tribe of wildly expressed women.
I love that.
So yeah, I mean, I think that gives you sort of the scale of what purpose is about. There's the very way that not just what I have to do today, but who I want to be as I show up for all these things that I have lined up today.
It's almost like a legacy statement. Like you're almost defining what it is people want to remember about you, or to help maybe is do you throw up the things that come into your life against that to help with your deciding on what aligns?
Yes, okay. Absolutely. And I do that on a daily basis, and I do it on a monthly basis, or whatever, when I have something that I want to be cultivating or manifesting, or, with the holidays, my daughter, I have a 11-year-old son. I've got a 20-year-old daughter who goes to college in Alaska. I'm in Los Angeles. She's coming home. I call her the vegan tornado, and it involves, she's vegan, the rest of us are not. And I totally honor that, but it's a whole different set of,
absolutely.
So there's a lot to get through. So I think about, like, how will I navigate? I'm totally anxious about having all this energy in the house, all these people, and the holidays, and entertaining, and her dog, and her boyfriend. So getting super intentional about, okay, like, how do I make this a beautiful experience, and what can I put in place, and finding my purpose in this episode. of my life? What is the purpose here? And a lot of that has to do with bringing forth, like, what do I want to bring forth? Um, who do I want to be at the end of the day today when I look back? What do I want to think about this day? Because it has all the potential to be completely chaotic and for me to be totally stressed out. So
Yeah.
what do I want to, how do I avoid the exhaustion, both physical exhaustion and existential exhaustion by the end of the day,
Right.
you know?
Well, and that's so, the permission that you just gave that piece of it, by doing the exercise of what's my purpose today, or what is my purpose this week, makes it so much more attainable than
Mhm.
trying to have this big vision of for the year or for my entire
Yeah.
life. So that's really, really beautiful. How do you then navigate, though, something comes to you, whether it's a person, a relationship, a friendship, a request for your time, a request for your service, your money, whatever? How do you navigate through then if it doesn't align, saying no? And is not right, not right now also a form of saying no?
Absolutely. Um, Not right now is a great way to say no. And there are definitely things that are a hard no,
Yeah,
like a hell no.
yeah,
And there are things that are a hell yes.
yeah,
And there are things that are, what do I do with this?
yeah.
Um, yeah. So, this dovetails beautifully with my favorite rule, which is, um, saying no can be an expression of loving kindness.
Oh, yeah, I like that one too.
Right. So, and that's twofold. One, I think we have every woman I know, every person I know, but we're talking about women specifically. Um, every woman I know has said yes to something
Mm,
that pushes up against their values for one reason or another, very often because they feel like they should.
yeah,
Um, or or they're saying yes in under the sort of premise of caring for someone, even though it's something that they don't necessarily believe in or value, or so there's that kind of like the first evaluation, I think, is like, is this something that I'm okay with as a person? Am I buying into something that is not really okay with me at the core, that doesn't feel right? And that's very much my check-in, is like a gut check there. It's a little bit about in the head about evaluating, you know um, things that I know to be true about
yeah,
myself, and the kind of life I want to live, and the kind of person that I am and that I aspire to be. But it's also it's valuable to really sort of know what it feels like in your body to like be resistant to something. Um, and so, I mean, I think that's first and foremost, honoring your truth and your values
mhm,
is key and valid. Um, and something that, I certainly wouldn't want to ask a friend or a family member to do something that they felt wasn't right for them.
mhm.
Um, or if I ask them, sure, like, I mean, I wouldn't expect them to say yes to that. I
Right.
would be able to create the room in my life to allow the people in my life to behave according to their values. Um, so there is that. And then there are a lot of criteria. There's time management, you know,
Yeah.
like, yes, I can, there was a moment of like, I really wanted to participate in this art project at my son's school. I'm an artist. I have my bachelor's degree is in art history. I love that. I used to teach the art curriculum. My daughter was in school, and I just,
Oh,
again,
yeah.
I chose not to do that anymore for my son because I'm focusing on other things.
Yeah.
My big goal, my big mission, my big purpose. So, in evaluating whether I was going to do that today, I had to really look at, the sort of cost benefit.
Mhm.
I'm taking up a chunk, probably 3 hours of time,
Yeah.
start to finish. And what does that what does that buy me? You know, if I allocate my resources that way, how am I fulfilling on my purpose, my big purpose, and my daily purpose? So, you know, there's all of that sort of um, negotiation and sort of truth telling. Like I imagine it as laying everything out on the table and looking at every aspect of it and making a conscious decision. Do I do this? What is it costing me to do this? And is that worth it?
I love also that you said, I mean, you're using this example of your son, which I think a lot of us women who happen to be mothers or caregivers of any other human beings, we often assume or tell ourselves that those people, those humans, should come first, when sometimes that's not necessarily the case. So in looking at your 3 hours of time and determining if that's the best use of your time today, as it aligns with your purpose, sometimes that means not choosing your loved ones. And that is huge.
Yeah,
That's huge.
it is huge. And for me as an entrepreneur and a mother,
Yeah.
My kids hear not right now or not today or I'm so sorry, but no.
Yeah.
They hear that a lot.
And that's okay.
It's totally okay. And you know, I have you know, you guys all don't know my kids, but I have fabulous kids. Like
Yeah.
they're awesome.
Yeah.
And they also make room for me. They see me as a person who has her own needs and they love to take care of me.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I think there's an aspect of my kids that just sort of, they came in amazing and I try not to screw it up. They might tell you a completely different story about living with their mother, but I feel like there is room. And it's been a little bit of an experiment for me on how to take care of everybody's needs in the household, including my own.
Yeah.
Because I see what happens. I mean, my kids know what happens when I don't meditate, and they're happy to like, you know, not bother me for 20 minutes
Mm-hmm.
while I go in my room and sit on my meditation cushion
Yeah.
and do what I need to do.
And I think and I want to talk a little bit about the cost of being a badass, literally. But before that, I think that what you're saying also kind of gives permission in terms of raising children. It's kind of our responsibility to raise children that understand boundaries,
Yeah.
understand being told no,
Yeah.
because they're going to take that into their relationships or their parenting responsibilities too, I think.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And, you know, I mean, it sort of nips the sense of entitlement in the bud, you know, when you're raising kids who never hear no or never hear that their parents, you know, have any needs at all, then they, you know, sort of we turn these kids out into the world that feel entitled to people's attention
Yes.
all the time. And that's not really how the world works or should work,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah, it's been successful for me. I feel, you know, that, and it's helped keep me sane.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts around quiet activism, quiet leadership. This is not something we prepared for, but
Yeah.
I'm just wondering through, you know, with women and our empowerment, which I don't like the word empower because it says that you're giving power to somebody, which we already have it. But um, what does it look like for women that don't feel comfortable being loud about their activism or loud about their purpose for the day? You know, I think a lot of women that I talk to feel that they're not strong enough, or they're not, they don't know enough, or they don't have the right answers to then go out and do whatever it is that they're led to do.
Right.
What do you say about those kind of?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Wildly Expressed is part of my sort of mission statement and my purpose to cultivate a tribe of a sisterhood of wildly expressed women. When I use that term, I don't necessarily mean like big, loud voice. what I mean to say is, when something is wild, it's not crafted, it's not contrived, it's not controlled, it's naturally occurring. And when a flower or a weed or something, it grows from the earth and is wild, it's raw and natural, in its expression, right?
Yeah.
So that being said, quiet confidence can be a form of wild self-expression. I think that no matter what form of activism or what activism looks like for you, the most fundamental form is to move through your life in integrity. That is truly, that is exactly what Gandhi was talking about when he said, be the change you want to see in the world. It is, waking up and moving through your life, minute by minute by minute in integrity, embodying the values that you seek to cultivate in the world. And that is a form of activism. Absolutely.
I love that.
And then bringing that, from that, how you speak to the barista at Starbucks, to how you deal with your children, to, all of that, to whether you're paying your bills on time, to all of that, structuring your life in integrity, and then bringing that to the relationships and how you conduct yourself in relationship, and how you, conduct yourself in your community, and then in the world. And so the bigger your sphere, as you move out, you're choosing, what is right for you, and how you're going to express the stand that you take in your life.
Well, and that also gives a little bit of a nod then to the fact that all of us are leaders. We all have a platform, we all have an audience. It doesn't necessarily mean we have thousands of followers on social media, but sometimes our audience is the barista, and sometimes our audience is the neighbor or the mailman. I really like that.
That's exactly right.
I have a couple of ending questions, but before, one nugget I want to make sure that we talk about inside of the concept of there being a cost to being a badass. Self-care is often discussed as, a massage or a bubble bath or 20 minutes of meditation. What's your definition of self-care, and what's the importance that badass women need to place on self-care?
It's a very good question. It's a really
we don't have a lot of time.
I know. I feel like self-care, I could talk for hours on self-care alone. My take on self-care is basically anything that nurtures and restores you. And, and that can be, a piece of chocolate cake. It rarely is the entire chocolate cake. It can be the decision, had I, part of my decision to go to my son's school today was, is this an act of self-care? Is the benefit and the nurturing that I will get from being in that environment and showing up for him and showing up for myself and sharing that moment with him, is that, does the benefit outweigh the cost, or is this going to actually deplete me? So anything that is restorative, that's nurturing, and that actually feels good. There's another criteria by which to evaluate that, and that is something else that maybe we'll have to do a part 2 to this, because sexuality is a huge piece of this. But one of the things for women that is crucial in our lives, which figures heavily into self-care, is carving out space for the feminine to rise. So when we think of self-care, it's often associated with pleasure, but it's also, pleasure is one of the, physical pleasure is one of the ways that we can invite in the feminine. And we're sort of built, we're wired for pleasure as women. We have a lot of nerve endings, many more than men.
Yeah.
And it's one of those ways that we can really relax into the sort of formlessness of arousal or pleasure, or that it balances us out as we move through the world, being badasses and often being in our masculine,
Yeah.
showing up, getting things done. Masculine energy is goal oriented and linear and problem solving, and that's fine, but it's essential. It's absolutely essential for women to back off of that and allow the flow,
Yeah.
you know, and the sort of surrender.
Yeah. That could lead into a whole host of discussions around women in politics and anyway, what's one of your personal mantras? I mean, we've talked a lot about a lot of things that I could say probably are defined as a mantra for you.
Yeah. That's an easy answer. It's a Ram Dass-ism. I am loving awareness.
Mm.
And I think, you know, navigating this very, very fast world that we live in, and multitasking, and, you know, it's so hyper stimulating and hyper connected, and multitasking. We just move so fast. One of the things that I think, just even navigating an hour at a time, if you look at that, the number of times that it's like, you know, you want to say WTF, or, you know, I even things. I recently submitted a book proposal to a publisher, and I found myself saying, I really want this. I wanted to say yes. I so want, like, this would be amazing. It could be a game changer. I want this. And stopping myself and recognizing, like, oh, okay, so, you know, that desire is good. It shows me where my passion is, but getting caught in my head about, you know, wanting a specific outcome,
Right.
and not trusting the universe. When I fall back into, because truly that would be amazing and wonderful if that's sort of meant to be, and he's a you know, a willing partner in that, and it could be a great dance, but I don't know the whole story, and it's one path for my book.
Yeah.
There are many other paths that might be better, right? We've all had those experiences where we hate what happened, and then it turns out there was something way better around the corner.
Yeah.
So falling back into, I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. There really is nothing more soothing and calm to get me back into trusting, and just, you know, talk about purpose.
Yeah.
To be loving awareness, to show up as a force of love and consciousness in the world, is really, there ain't nothing better than that.
I love it, because that also puts the soft edge on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. One last question before we go. What's your favorite way to reset? Because I think that ties into everything we've been talking about, being a badass, knowing where your boundaries are, knowing what's your alignment. How do you reset?
Easy answer for me. Going outside and putting my bare feet in the dirt or the grass or the sand at the beach, and really feeling the earth and really connecting with, you know, for me, it's very much about, it's sort of part of my whole sensibility and who I am. But I also think it's a little bit universal as human beings on this great big planet, to feel your feet on the earth and really connected, and then also to kind of connect with the sky, the sun, you know, the big picture, and to really feel that that energy sort of going up and down in our bodies.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time and for all of your openness and honesty and in all that you do. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Zoe.